news, Seka? Bro, twice in one day I'm seeing you? What do you want?
Well, I've just hit AR55, and I wanted to know a little bit more about what you believe I should be doing going forward.
You're AR55 and you're asking for advice? On what?
Well, I've built my Zhao, I have all my artifacts, everything seems to be going swimmingly, but I'm not sure what I want to focus on next.
What do you mean?
Well, there are so many leaks about Hu Tao animations and how total damage Ayaka might be coming. I honestly don't know what to do, but I might get all of them. And because the new event is so interesting and I want to spend all my time on it, I'm really not sure what I should be spending my resin on going forward. Will we make a video about what I should farm for the next month or so?
Yeah, I think it'll help some other people out, not you though.
I'll do it for Normie Seka. Thanks, Seka! I appreciate it.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another Genshin epic video. This one we're going over what you should be pre-farming in February 2021. And one of the things you probably should be focusing your resin on, because we're getting so many good events with so many free resources, and where I think you should be focusing your resin this month. So hopefully you will be able to save for the character you really want. Let's jump into it. Alrighty guys, I had just hit AR55 a little bit ago, and I wanted to give you guys a brief tour of my free-to-play account. I didn't build Aether in this account, by the way. And I want to show you guys exactly what I've done in order to make it so that I don't fall off on my free-to-play account. So here's my character box currently. I have these characters right now built out. I have a level 82 Venti. I've ascended him. I'm working on my Bennett. I worked on Kaya. I've ascended my Amber. I'm working on Zhao. I got Chungyang to 80, and the rest of my characters, I've kind of just haphazardly, like slowly worked on them for either primo gems or other different things. As my reroll character or whatever, my first banner pull was Venti. My second banner pull was an Aquila Favonia. My third banner pull was Mona. And finally, that led to my fourth banner pull being Zhao, which means my next character banner character is not going to be a guaranteed character banner character. And what I'm going to be doing from this point forward is actually start summoning on different things and spending my resources in a different way. And I'll show you how I got to this point and where I'm currently at. So currently, every single time the Abyss runs around, I am able to do on this free-to-play account that I almost never farm on, get all the stars, not all the stars, but get enough stars through Abyss to get enough rewards and get all stages done in the Abyss. Now, I only have to play this account probably at maximum 2 to 3 hours a day after all the investment I put into the account. And sometimes I do put in a little bit more work to get a little bit more done on my account. Typically run a team that involves something like this with a Zhao and a Venti composition, or potentially I run like a physical build where I throw in maybe Beidou or something like that in order to get myself a physical based team and just get a lot of superconduct up with my main DPS Kaya. So those are the two types of teams I typically run. And if I wanted to get a second healer in the account, the other unit I use sometimes is Chungyang with my Bennett to get damage in on Bennett, etc. So I have a lot of flexibility with different characters. But what I did was this last month and a half, in order to make my Zhao really, really good, is I actually just focused on one character and pre-farmed one character for about a month and a half. And because I spent a lot of time and effort getting that, I got to these stats on my artifacts, and I was able to get a decent weapon on him with a refined 1 Black Leplorum to level 90. And on his release, I was able to get Zhao and then go immediately into the characters. Now, I make a lot of jokes about British Seka being free to play and a lot of things like that, but in all seriousness, I actually did plan out how I was going to get Zhao months in advance. So if you don't know about banner strategies and how you can manipulate the banner in order to get the character that you want guaranteed, you of course just summon on the banner till you get your guaranteed 5-star. If it ends up not being the 5-star that you wanted for the character that you were going for, you then start saving wishes or start doing a little bit of wishes here and there on a character banner to get the 4 stars that you want in between. The idea is that by the time that the soft pity comes around, you get your character that you really want. The reason I wanted to spend all my resources on Zhao is because now what I'm going to do for the next 2 months is I'm going to start saving on my free-to-play account for other characters. And the reason when I say saving is I don't actually mean primo gems. I mean resources. I mean, I'm going to start stockpiling other types of resources for a character. And what I mean by that is I'm going to go around and use my resin on 3 different things. The first thing I need to farm, of course, is Mora. Right now, my current Mora value is about 960,000. and not too much. But what I can do is I can actually farm bosses. The new boss that got introduced in the game, which is the Primo Geo Vishap, is actually a really, really good example of a boss you can grind out to get a lot amount of different crystals. Unfortunately, though, you don't get a lot of these. So you can actually go around and farm a bunch of different bosses around the map, but that doesn't really seem like the best strategy. And the other characters that are being introduced are Rosario, Hu Tao, and other characters going forward. So since we do not know what characters are going to be coming out, what I need to do is start stockpiling resources for a character that I don't know what it's going to be. So the resources that I need to farm no matter what for those characters are going to be Mora and Wits, but I don't want to overfarm them because we are getting a 2x drop event later this month. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, the number one thing that I should be grinding right now as a player is actually just artifact XP. So if I wanted to stockpile a bunch of things, what I can do is actually go around the map and just farm artifact domains consistently in order to get a lot of different types of artifacts for a lot of different characters. And even if I don't get good rolls on those artifacts, I can make sure that I can actually use different parts of artifact set pieces for different character teams that I may need. And by stockpiling a bunch of artifact XP and actually just get myself a bunch of 4-star artifacts and a bunch of 3-star artifacts rolling around, I can actually make sure that I can get a character really built out. Now, what I ended up doing for Zhao, and that's why I actually have all my Zhao artifacts done on day one when Zhao was released, is actually pre-farmed all the artifacts and all the artifact XP, and actually got all the artifact pieces done for my Zhao so that he could actually have good artifact rolls, not the best in the world, but definitely decent enough to get by for a kit. And I was able to use him as a main DPS that way. So what I'm going to be grinding for next on this account, even though I've already built it right now, is probably my Mona. And I'm going to grind Hydro artifacts out of here to get Hydro artifacts. But I'm not going to feed any of the artifact XP until much later. I can also farm a Cryo set for another set character if I really wanted to for, say, Chungyang. And I can actually keep this artifact XP on the side and not use it. I'm going to be starting hoarding artifact XP starting today on my free-to-play account because it is probably the smarter play going forward. And the reason I think this is going to be a really good strategy going forward is because if I look at all the events that they have in the game, all the different events have lots amount of different crystals, large amounts of hero wits that they give us, Mora, Dust of Azat to transfer different kinds of crystals to other types of crystals. They give us Crowns of Insight and, of course, talent books that you can use to upgrade talents on your characters. Now, since they're giving all these other types of resources, the only other type of resource that I should be hoarding is artifact XP, because that means that I'm going to need to farm artifact XP for other characters going forward so that I can make sure that I can have enough artifacts for that character, or the right type of artifact XP for that character going forward that I really want. If you already have a character in mind that you want to pre-farm for, say, Hu Tao, or pre-farm for any other characters, you're going to need a significant amount of artifact XP to get to that point. All right, if you do any artifact domain, what happens is you are going to get a 5-star artifact at AR55 plus, and then somewhere between 2 and 3 4-star artifacts, and then you'll get a few more 3-star artifacts. Now, with each of the artifact, dang, that's not bad. When feeding any type of artifact XP, of course, a 3-star artifact gives you 1,260 XP. A 4-star artifact will give you a total of 2,500. And finally, a 5-star artifact will give you 3,780. So the total cumulative amount of XP that you're going to need to level up any 5-star artifact is going to be 270,475 artifact XP. Total amount of artifacts that you would need to have for any artifact piece that you wanted to get leveled up to a level 20. If you got 0 2x and 0 5x rolls, would be 215 3-star artifacts, 108 4-star artifacts, and finally 72 5-star artifacts, depending on what you're going to be using. And then if you wanted to do if you were using it for a support character and you didn't want to fully maximize the artifacts and go all the way in, it would take you 122, 61, and 41 respectively, comparing to that. These drops right here is what I just got in the total amount of artifact XP, and let's total that up, which is 12,600 artifact XP. If that's your average run for any artifact level up, it's going to take you a total of 21 to 22 runs for you to maximize any 5-star artifact, which is a total of 429 resin that you're going to need to save, or basically 440 at that point, because you can't. There's no 29 in resin. Because there's going to be 2 times and other things in between. 420 resin per artifact. Now, if that's the case, you multiply that times 5. It's 2,146 resin for 5 artifacts. Now, if we total that up, that's about 12 days of resin. The reason you want to pre-farm artifact XP is because when you're feeding different artifacts in the end game, things go wrong all the time. Now, what do I mean by things go wrong all the time? Well, if you've been doing artifacts for a while, you know. But every so often you get one of these god roll pieces and it will be really good and you'll start rolling really heavily into crit chance and crit damage. But then, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be really good. But then every so often you get one of these pieces where you're like, okay, I rolled flat attack a bunch of times, crit rate a bunch of one time. I might need to transfer over some artifact XP. Now, whenever you transfer over an artifact, you get about 80% of the artifact XP that transfers over. Now, every so often, that hurts. So that's about 54,000 artifact XP every time that you lose, every time you try to reroll an artifact substat. But when you're farming artifact XP, to pre-farm for artifacts, this number is actually not the number you need to be focused on. It's how much artifact XP can you pre-farm so that you can actually try to get better substats on your artifact rolls when you try re-rolling different artifacts. And if it costs you about 54,095 XP per level 20 re-roll, that means it's going to take you a total of 4 to 5 runs. What was it? 4 to 5 runs per re-roll, or 80 to 100 resin per time you get a really good artifact. So the reason you kind of want to pre-farm artifact XP is because you're going to need to farm a bunch of these to make sure you get god roll artifacts. Now let me tell you about this Zhao. While I was farming for this Zhao, the reason it took so long to make sure that I got a lot of really good artifact sets and try to reroll some substats to get the ones I really needed is I continuously farmed artifacts that I really needed. I ended up getting really lucky on this one, but of course you can see the substat rolls did not get the ones I want for the Gladiator, and I ended up having to farm Gladiator sets, and that was a whole mess there. Over here, again, didn't really get the best here, but I then had a bunch of other artifacts that I could have tried to roll, and I ended up using a lot of my Gladiator artifacts that I've gotten over weeks and weeks of doing the bosses, domains, etc. And I had to focus really heavily on trying to get difference. But the two artifacts I was able to continuously try to re-roll are the headpiece over here, the Animo Goblet over here, and finally the flower. And I had to go through about 4 or 5 different ones to end up getting the ones I want. I ended up having this one over here, and then there's a couple other ones I had in the mix in the back line to just hold on to make sure. And I ended up going about 5 or 6 times on artifacts just to get the one I really wanted. Now this one I'm probably going to replace at some point, but it's good enough for now. And the goblet is probably the best I'm going to get because it is an animal rolled animal goblet, and that's really hard to get. So pre-farming artifact XP, doing a couple runs here and there every single day really did help me out in feeding to get these artifacts done very, very quickly. And hoarding artifact XP and legendary artifacts allowed me to play around with sets so that I can actually instantly build out a set that I really wanted for a character when the character came out. So the short version for all of you guys who don't want to listen to all the math is start hoarding some artifact XP for the future, because you're going to get a lot of Mora, a lot of wits, and a lot of Mora and a lot of wits and some crystals, as well as books from the events that are going to be coming out. And once you hear of a character that you're going to be farming for, try to pre-farm for the character so that you guys can get the character you want built out on day one. All right, guys, my name's Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it was helpful for you guys to figure out exactly how you're going to build out characters in the future so that you can actually pre-farm for a character that you really want, get everything that you need on them, and of course, use them the first day they come out. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Peace.